Hello there and welcome to the channel, and look at this, it's a glorious day, and that's because it's May, and this is a very special time for people who are English descent. It means that after spending 6 months complaining about how cold, wet and miserable the weather is, we can now look forward to the next 6 months of complaining about how flipping hot it is. Anyway, the point of this video is this: we're going to have a look around and see what jobs need to be done in May in your exotic garden. So I'm going to show you around, I'm going to show you what I'll be doing. You can decide if any of those you want to do, and we'll need to get a crack on, because let's be honest, these jobs do not do themselves. Come on then. Now it may look a little Heath Robinson, and that's a cultural reference from about 80 years ago. You can look that up on Google if you want to, but what we have here is we have a little area we've put aside in order to harden off our plants we've taken out of the greenhouse and the conservatory. So we've got this lot over here and this little batch under here, which is hardening off under the protection of the old apple tree. Now the reason why we harden off our plants first before putting them out into their final position, especially ones that require full sun all day, all year long, is to prevent them being scorched, sun damaged on the leaves, which are on smaller plants, and in a worst case scenario can actually kill off your plants, especially with young seedlings. So it's very important that you give them the opportunity to build up their resistance to the sunlight before placing them out in full sun. Take a look at this, I'll show you. See, that's a nice, clean, healthy leaf of a strelitzia here. All these dark patches and mottling on this leaf, as well as this leaf here, that's all typical sun scorch, and this blackness is where the leaf cells on the surface of the leaf, but these have died, and really these leaves are not going to recover. They'll just die off eventually and just be replaced with new ones. I mean, there's even a little touch of scorch just on there. Now the thing is that plant leaves is like people's skin. Now if you've got lovely soft young skin like mine, then if you bring it out into the sun, the direct sunlight, then you are at risk of it becoming burnt. However, you need a little bit of sunlight on that, so that the ultraviolet light initiates or triggers the production of melanin that then protects your skin from the ultraviolet light. And it's the same with the leaves when they're under glass, either in a greenhouse or in a conservatory. The ultraviolet light, part of it is absorbed by the glass, and part of it is sort of slightly changed its wavelength, so it is not as strong in the greenhouse or the conservatory as it would be compared to outside. So when you bring these plants outside, you need to start them off in the shade and build up their tolerance to the sunlight, otherwise you'll get the scorching that we saw on those strelitzias earlier. Now, strong growing leafy plants such as this hardy banana and this brugmansia tend to produce more leaf than actually have nutrition to cope with, so the foliage is coming out quite yellow, whereas really this should be very dark green. So with plants like these are vigorous, strong growing plants, leafy plants, in the spring make sure that you start getting your feeding in place, and not only do you want to feed these, you want to start feeding the old tree ferns here, as well as watering them. You want to be looking at watering these pretty much, if it's sunny like this, on a daily basis, and feeding on a weekly basis. Also, any kind of winter protection, there's a good chance you don't need any of this on anymore. So if you're on the south coast or the warmer parts of the planet, then check your overnight forecast for on the long range weather forecast, and you should be able to take all this down now. But it's not just the plants that are becoming invigorated and growing and doing what they do. Your pests are also doing exactly the same thing, and one of the more pernicious pests are your slugs and snails. So if you haven't put in any of your slug and snail management in place by now, there's a good chance you started to suffer quite a lot of damage. So I would urge you to go down the supermarket, get your cheap tins of beer, start filling up those slug pups, because they really do a fantastic job when really there's not much else out there that will. Unless you want to go to all the faff of using those slug nematodes, which are, honestly, isn't there anything easier that we can use? I blame science. Right, let's have a little look, see if you've been doing your job. Oh yeah, look at that. That's a win for me. Ooh, and that there, that's another win for me. Now, if you're taking the opportunity of early spring to sow your exotic plants, and I particularly like using these modular seed trays, and don't forget that as these plants get bigger, they'll be more prone to drying out in the modular seed trays, so you need to get these out and get them into larger pots. Okay, so I accept that these aren't ornamental plants, although they are from the tropics of South America, but as soon as they get into these pots, put them in the greenhouse, they really do romp away, the same as these little hibiscus moeaceus, I think they are, and we've got some artichokes there, and I do like artichokes. Lorna isn't such a big fan, but I just love the architectural silver foliage. Really nice plants there. But again, just a little note about squash. They went from the conservatory to the greenhouse. You can just see a little bit of burning on the leaves, even in the greenhouse. Amazing. Now, I've been saving this pot for some very special tubers, so I'm going to pop them into the kitchen and see if they're ready to be planted out yet. Well, there you go. These are the glory lily tubers that we've been overwintering, and can you see that? Just on the edge there, starting to see the new buds coming through. Now this means, I don't know how they know it's ready to start growing when it's been this covered all year, but as soon as you start seeing these new buds coming out, that means this plant is ready to go outside. So planting those up is going to be another job on the list for this weekend, but I absolutely love glory lilies. I don't know if you remember how good they looked last year. Let's see if we've got a little bit of a clip to show you. Okay, so camellias are starting to come to an end of flowering, which means it's time to start thinking about pruning those, if you are intending to prune those. Just be very careful on the timing of these. I won't go into the details of that in this video, but I will put a video in the description that explains exactly when you should be pruning these. Wind's picking up. Okay, tree lilies are starting to emerge. I mean, we've got this one over here that's really romping away. Look at that one, that's nearly 3 foot tall. Now, tree lilies, as with many of your lilies, are all prone to the scarlet lily beetle, and although we haven't had much damage of scarlet lily beetle on these ones, you do need to sort of put in a little bit of management for these. So while the flower buds are really not showing at all, it's still a good time to put down a decent insecticide, one that's residual, one that will stay in the plant for a couple of weeks, so that if you do get any scarlet lily beetle attacking this without your knowing, then it will keep all of that in check. As you can see, we're starting to get canna lilies starting to show through the ground, so it's a great opportunity to start watering them if it's a period of dry weather, and certainly start feeding them so it powers that new growth. If your salvias are starting to emerge, you see all this green growth at the base, then that means all this snaggy old growth, that can all be removed now because you know where it is. The same goes for your fancy fuchsias. Once your new growth comes through from the base, all this snaggy old growth that sort of allows you to know where your plant was last year, all this can be cut down. You don't need this anymore. Be honest with you, if you fall over and catch your eye on that, ooh, that's going to smart. Hold on a minute. I've got something important to say. If you've enjoyed this video or just find some of the information in it useful to you, then consider clicking on the like button. That way it makes it a lot easier for YouTube to find other people who want to find that information. Anyway, no further ado, let's continue finding out what old Boilbutt has to say. If you've got second or third year triachiums and they haven't bolted their new flower spike just yet, then don't worry, they will do. But don't forget, if they're in a little bit of an exposed area, you're going to want to put in a stake to protect this trunk, because it's a very sort of like fibrous, surface level root system. It doesn't go very deep, despite the fact it goes so tall. So make sure you put a stake in that. Try not to stab the roots with the stake when it goes in. But believe me, when you get your first storm coming through over the summer, this is one of the first things that are going to be knocked over. Now, if like me you still think you haven't got enough plants in your garden, then the garden centres and your plant retailers should be fully stocked with all sorts of lovely things. Look what I got. That is an absolutely gorgeous knife over there. Really pretty. I haven't seen one of those before. So if you want to find something, maybe a bit of a bargain, then your biggest range of plants that you're going to find is going to be now. Also, if if you still want to buy some seeds, and let's be honest, it's getting a bit late, many of the online seed producers are selling these at a reduced rate now, so they clear out before the season finishes, which won't be too long now. Love my chair. Now, if you keep your eye out, you see any plants that are looking a bit sickly or dying back for no obvious reason, then I'll get these out and I'll throw them away, either burn them or stick them in your recycling. Do not recompost this in your own compost, because the chances are there's either like a viral or a bacteria or some sort of fungal, something horrible going on there. You don't want to pass that on to other plants. So that's a euphorbia of some description. So we've got other euphorbias in the bed, so that's got to go, because there's a big risk that whatever's killing this one off is going to kill the other ones off. So be ruthless. Anything that's a bit dodgy, take it out, get rid of it. Now, if you like to keep plants in baskets, little sort of nests in the tree, and be aware that you get lovely sunny conditions like this combined with strong winds, and these things will dry very quickly. So once again, with regards to watering, you may need to water these on a daily basis, some cases twice a day, depending on the plant, depending how big it is, and depending what basket you've got it in. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is weeds, and not just weeds regards to weeding and stopping your borders looking unsightly. Some weeds, such as groundsel or oxalis, they can be host to other fungal infections, particularly like rust. So if you've got oxalis, if you've got groundsel in your garden, then keep an eye on it. Really, you shouldn't have it in there in the first place, but if you're starting to see those characteristic orange spots, then you know rust is in your garden. And if you have a big collection of roses, well, then they are going to be at risk too. So it's not just about making things look nice and making less work for you, it's also about reducing the risk of cross infection of plant pests and diseases. And there you have it. Those are the jobs that I'll be doing this month in May in my exotic garden. And thank you for walking around with me as I point this out. And before I go, I'm going to leave you with the apple tree. Look how beautiful that is looking at the moment. Absolutely stunning in those blooms. Well, if you enjoyed that, we've got plenty more videos for you to look at. Just have a quick search into our video library. Otherwise, you can check on this one here. And if that's not your cup of tea, try that one there. Enjoy these while I've still got the energy to do them.